everyone. This is Farah Mpofu from the Securities and Exchange Commission at Zimbabwe. Can I get a few thumbs up to confirm that you can hear me and that you can see me? Thank you. I see a couple have popped up. Excellent, excellent. It's a lovely morning for us to be talking about unlocking funding opportunities for SMEs through the capital market. We have a wonderful lineup of panelists today, and we can see from the interest in the registrations that the interest is very high, and there's a recognition that this is a sector which has the capability and is suitably poised to be able to drive sustainable economic development in our country. Tembi, if you'll assist me to introduce the panelists that we have here this morning. We've got Engineer Gondo, we've got Grace Merejena, and Tino Kambasha. I will take you through their bios very quickly. Tembi, if you can move our slide along, we'll be able to do that very quickly since we are running a couple of minutes behind. Great. So first of all, we've got Engineer Gondo. He is currently the Chief Director, Enterprise and Community Development in the Ministry of Women's Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprise Development. He is tasked with a very big job, spearheading development and growth of SMEs and cooperative sectors, as well as championing empowerment of communities through utilization of local resource endowment. That's a massive one, Engineer, and we are really looking forward to hearing how you are going about that task and how it dovetails with the activities of the other panelists on this webinar. Engineer Gondo has over 20 years of experience in both the private and public sector, with a passion for production and operations management, as well as entrepreneurship development. So that is Engineer Gondo for you. We will introduce the other panelists, and in what will be most likely a most exhilarating discussion, I want to introduce Grace Merejena, who is the Director of Policy and Market Development here at the Commission. She is chairperson of the Capital Markets Subcommittee of the Committee of Insurance, Securities, and Non-Banking Financial Authorities, called SECZim. She has over 25 years of experience in the Zimbabwe capital market, of which 15 are in regulation. She holds both a BSc honors degree and a master's degree in economics from the University of Zimbabwe. And finally, Tino Kambasha from the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe, a newish, relatively new kid on the block, from whom we are expecting big and innovative things. Tino is CEO and board member of the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe, seasoned investment banker, 16 years of experience, and has held senior roles across both public and private sectors. Mr. Kambasha has played advisory roles for the government of Zimbabwe, contributing to the establishment of institutions such as the National Building Society and ZIDA. He served on multiple boards and possesses expertise in corporate governance. He holds a Bachelor of Economics, Finance and Banking, and has a major in industrial psychology from Rhodes University in South Africa. That is the lineup we have for you today. I will not eat into any more of their time. We invite you to take note of your questions, which we would love to hear after all three presenters have taken us through their presentations. And because we've got IT support on the ready, it's possible that we may need to extend our session slightly to accommodate the fact that we are a few minutes into our presentations. So without further ado, let me hand over to Engineer Gondo to kickstart this conversation, and the other presenters will follow. I ask you please to manage your mics on your end. Please mute to ensure we have a smooth flow, and also to safeguard the overall security of the conversation we are having together here. So Engineer, please share your screen and take us through your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Farai. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see my screen?
Engineer, I saw the screen share flash, and then for some reason it disappeared. Perhaps you can just
let me share now again.
Thank you.
All right, can you now see it?
I see your screen now, and please go ahead. I know that prior to coming live, we did try and go into presentation mode, which was a challenge. So do go ahead in the current mode, and if possible, during the presentation, you can switch. But for now, you are loud and clear, and we see your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Farai. I've tried to put it on presentation mode again. I'm not sure if it's reflecting now.
Please go ahead as we are. It isn't yet.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to recognize my fellow speakers, Grace Berejena from the Securities Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, Mr. Tino Kambasha, the CEO of Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe, and of course, you, Farai, and all the participants that have joined us for this webinar. My name is Engineer Francis Gonde. Has already been presented by Farai with the Ministry of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. Allow me to say that my presentation is going to be with the following outline: the introduction, overview of the ministry, just a brief on the global SME landscape and also the landscape in Zimbabwe. Then just try to help participants. How do we define the SMEs in Zimbabwe, and then the importance of the sector in Zimbabwe, key challenges facing the sectors, and outlining some of the gaps that we've noted from where we are seated as a ministry in terms of financing SMEs, and then the role that capital markets could play in bridging this financing gap. Then finally, the conclusion. So quickly, by way of introduction, allow me to say that I'm deeply honored and privileged to represent the ministry at this webinar titled Unlocking Funding Opportunities for MSMEs Through Capital Markets. I also bring warm greetings from the Honorable Minister, Honorable Monica Mchangwa, and my Permanent Secretary, Dr. Mavis Sibanda, who are really grateful to the Securities Exchange Commission for having given the ministry this platform and also created this platform for us to, to engage on this very important subject matter. This webinar is timely and in line with the government's efforts through the National Financial Inclusion Strategy 2, the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Policy Framework, as well as the SMEs Act, which currently is under review to diversify and deepen funding options for MSMEs. The ministry is also grateful to the SME associations and other stakeholders that are attending, that have taken time to attend this webinar.
Engineer, let me interrupt you. Are you moving your slides currently, because they are not moving on our side?
I'm moving them.
Okay, give me a minute.
Okay.
Technical team, can you confirm which slide you are on?
Right now I'm on introduction, if it's the one showing.
Slide number 3. We are still on your cover slide. Talent, can you confirm what your experience is?
It's still showing the cover slide. If he's experiencing any challenges, we can try to support him from this end.
Maybe you can show it from that end if it's okay, no problem.
All right, so you can stop sharing your screen and we'll assist you from this side. Okay, fine, thank you.
And engineer, you can continue with your remarks while the team is pulling up the presentation. Please continue in audio.
Okay, thank you very much. Then in terms of, I was now on slide number 4, where I wanted to talk about the overview of the ministry, just to say that the mission of the ministry is to formulate and implement, monitor and evaluate policies and programs for women's empowerment, gender equality, and supporting resilient communities, small and medium enterprise, and as well as SMEs and cooperatives, and coordinate stakeholders that are in this sector. So we are quite pleased that we have this platform today that we have to discuss how we can deepen funding support for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Then our key support programs under the SMEs development mandate include policy formulation, funding support for small businesses, as well as supporting with capacity building in terms of business management and technical skills training, supporting SMEs with market access, as well as providing business advisory in a number of areas, such as how to start and run your business, issues of standards development. The ministry is also supporting the sector with workspace development, as well as capacity building in terms of digitalization and technology adoption. Just to mention some of the key support programs that the ministry is undertaking in terms of SMEs development. Then just to give the landscape of the SME sector, globally, SMEs are playing a vital role in economies around the world due to their importance in terms of job creation, innovation, international trade, as well as balancing development across various nations. According to the World Bank, SMEs represent about 90% of businesses and provide more than 50% of employment worldwide. Formerly, SMEs contribute up to 40% of national income, that is GDP, in emerging economies. These numbers are even significantly higher when we also include the informal sector around the world. Then also the World Bank estimates that 600 million jobs will be needed by 2030 to absorb the growing global workforce, which makes SMEs development a high priority for any government, including the government of Zimbabwe. And in emerging markets, more formal jobs are generated by SMEs, which create every 7 out of 10 jobs. So you can agree and see, ladies and gentlemen, that the sector globally is a very, very important sector globally. And coming to Zimbabwe, the sector is at the center of job creation and industrialization through primary production, value addition, and beneficiation. In 2021, in collaboration with Zimstats, we carried out a survey to understand the sector, and that sector revealed that there were 3.4 million micro, small, and medium enterprises that were operating in the country. And of these 3.4 million MSMEs, 56.4% of them were owned by women. This survey also revealed that 76%, the sector contributed 76% of all employment, and also contributing 60% of the national gross domestic product. The sector has since assumed greater prominence as a source of livelihood through absorption of people that are coming out of our schools, our youths, and our women, as well as people who are not getting opportunities elsewhere. Further, the government of Zimbabwe has been working very hard to support the sector in terms of exports, and we have seen quite a number of small and medium enterprises coming on to export. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that the sector is really a very, very key aspect of our national economy. Farai, can I confirm if the screen is now showing from that end so that I know where we are?
It is, and we are on just the points that the stats you were sharing are on display. Number 4, the landscape in Zimbabwe.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. So in terms of the, we can now move on to the next item, which gives the definition and classification of MSMEs in Zimbabwe, which is the next slide. Next one from this one. Yes. In Zimbabwe, MSMEs are defined in accordance with the provisions of the SMEs Act Chapter 2412, which is currently under review, as I said. And this act looks at about 4 variables in terms of defining an SME, which is legality, to make sure that every business that is recognized as an SME should be legal. Anything that is illegal, that according to the act is not an SME. the number of permanent employees, annual turnover, as well as gross value of assets, excluding immovable property. So we can move on to the next slide, which is gives the figures in terms of a micro enterprise. Just as a general guideline, as you can see on the screen there, this is an enterprise with 1 to 5 employees and with an annual turnover of up to a maximum of $30,000, and then gross value of assets, excluding fixed assets, of up to $10,000. Then for the small enterprise, we are looking at those enterprises with 6 to 30 employees and annual turnover of around $500,000. And then we have the gross value of assets is shown on the screen. Then again, in terms of medium enterprises, we are looking at those enterprises with employees from 31 to 75 employees and with an annual turnover of about around 1 million, but this varies with other sectors like mining, where it goes up to 3 million, and then construction, when it's in the construction sector, it's 2 million. Then again, in terms of value of assets, excluding fixed assets, again, it varies across various sectors, but it is around 500,000. Then for mining and construction, it's 2 million, and then manufacturing, it is 1 million. So this is how we define SMEs in terms of the SMEs Act Chapter 2412 that I've spoken about. Then moving on in terms of the importance of the SME sector, His Excellency the President, Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, in his inaugural speech, he said that the economic role of MSMEs, women and youth, are key players in our quest to realize Vision 2030. So I think we can all agree from the statistics that I've shared that for our nation to achieve Vision 2030, it cannot be possible without SMEs. And therefore, this platform is very, very important. And as I move on the next slide, just to show again some of the key issues that SMEs are contributing to. I've spoken about them: job creation, in the rural industrialization, and also pathfinders for external markets for our products. Right now, I can tell you right now, we have got over 54 of our SMEs participating at the Expo, Osaka 2025 World Expo, where they are exhibiting their products there. And creating new markets for our country's products. And also SMEs are at the forefront of innovation and creating strong linkages with other sectors. And they also provide easy entry into the mainstream economy, thereby improving livelihoods of our people from all over the country. And again, we are faced, ladies and gentlemen, with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And SMEs have been at the forefront of looking at new markets across Africa. And this is an area where we feel that we could continue to support them for further growth. Then as we move on, in terms of our subject matter at hand, in terms of financing for SMEs, we have been looking at what are some of the challenges that are affecting our SMEs. And we have a survey that we carried out in collaboration with the World Bank in 2022, and it outlines some of the key challenges that our SMEs are facing. And some of these challenges that came out, including sourcing of finance, of which 44% of those enterprises that were surveyed indicated that they were having challenges. And some of them also indicated issues of cash flows, access to markets. 18% of them indicated that. Then logistical challenges also, 14% of those were surveyed indicated those challenges. Then in terms of growth obstacles, again, access to finance was a key issue, with 36% of those that surveyed indicating that they facing access to finance as one of their key growth obstacles, and also space to operate from. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you can see that financing is one of those issues that is a key factors that is affecting growth of SMEs. And then if we move on to the next slide, it will show that some of the issues that SMEs face, which are not really outlined there, including a multiplicity of regulatory requirements which is, driving some of our SMEs into informality. And again, issues of skills within the workforce and the owners that are really operating and running SMEs. So again, these are some of the issues that we may want to look at as we move on. Then as we move on to the next slide, in terms of now zeroing in terms of the financing gap, the World Bank report that access to finance is the biggest challenge facing SMEs globally. In Zimbabwe, despite the numerous progress that we've made through implementation of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, MSMEs financing gap still remains substantial, with average loans to SMEs as a percentage of total banking loans standing at just 5.25%. This is according to the RBZ at the end of 2024. The limited funding through the traditional banking system is owed to a high perceived risk and a number of other factors that I'll speak about as I move on to the next slide. But as you can see that SMEs, despite the fact that we've spoken about them contributing at least 60% to the gross domestic product, in terms of loans advanced to this sector, they are standing at just 5.25%, which gives us a story that it's either SMEs are using other financing mechanisms, which are not the mainstream financial system, which is a huge challenge in terms of funding their growth. Then some of the key gaps that we have observed as a ministry from where this is through the Africa Guarantee Fund. There's the information gap where banks lack standardized information on SMEs to efficiently perform risk assessments. And because of that, most financial institutions then shun supporting SMEs with funding. Then again, the issues of collateral. Most of our SMEs, these are still growing. They are trying to grow. And the owners or the business themselves do not have, property to pledge as collateral when it's required. But we are glad some of the initiatives by the RBZ are beginning to help, where immovable property now is now accepted as security for securing some of these loans. Then there's also the issue of the tenure of the loans that are offered by financial institutions, where there's a mismatch. Most SMEs are trying to grow. They want to invest in capital equipment, but the funding that is available on the market is short-term, or the tenure is not adequate to meet their expectations or their needs. And again, the issues of skills, like I said, this is a challenge, a gap that we still see and observe, and this is affecting, again, access to finance for SMEs. Then again, the issue of product gap, where the products that are on the market really do not match the expectations of the sector. So again, I think this is another area where we need to see how we can work together to assist the sector. Then again, the issue of perception, where the gap between the actual and perceived risk is significant for SMEs, where generally financial institutions will believe that the sector is risky, but they have not really taken enough time to study and understand the sector so that they can actually be specific and say the risk that is in this sector is this much, rather than just perceiving from where they are seated and where they are operating from. So these are some of the gaps that we believe are very key and are affecting access to finance for SMEs in our country. So moving on to the next slide, we are now saying, given these gaps, given the importance of the sector that the sector is playing in our country, how can then capital markets bridge this financing gap? And we move on to the next slide. In the face of the huge financing gap for SMEs, there is now need for innovative solutions to expand SME financing, and therefore capital markets become a vital part of the financial system, where long-term funds can be raised and invested. Some of the key issues where capital markets can come in and assist in this regard is mobilizing diverse sources of capital We know that capital markets can tap into a much wider pool of investors, including institutional investors, pension funds, insurance funds, mutual sovereign wealth funds, and even individuals, as well as international capital. This diversification of funding sources is very crucial for high growth SMEs. Then another, way in which capital markets can assist is in facilitating long-term funding. Moving on, you can move on to the next slide. As I presented earlier on, that one of the issues that is affecting our access to funding for SMEs is the tenure of the funding that is available. And traditional banks often offer short-term funding, which doesn't suit many SMEs, which require long-term investment, including, which investment including agriculture, education, construction, health, and others. Alternatively, capital markets can raise substantial amounts of money for extended periods for projects which are typically too large and too long-term for traditional bank loans. Then again, we expect capital markets to offer financing innovation and riskier ventures. Zimbabwe is experiencing an increased growth of startups and technology firms in a number of sectors, such as health, agriculture, finance, and energy, among others. Traditional banks are too risk-averse to fund these sectors and prefer lending to established post-revenue businesses with stable cash flows. And this is really a challenge for SMEs. So we are saying that capital markets are better suited for financing new, innovative, and higher risk ventures that have high growth potential, but may not yet be profitable. And we are saying venture capital and private equity, which operate within the broader capital markets ecosystem, are specifically designed for this. So moving on to the next one, I think my last point in terms of how capital markets can come in and close the gap is reducing the reliance on single funding sources. Capital markets can reduce systemic risk in the financial system by complementing traditional bank lending, enhancing overall financial stability, and most importantly, offering diverse funding that suits SMEs with unique business models. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I want to say, whilst all these efforts are underway to integrate SMEs into capital markets, there is still lack of understanding of how capital markets operate, as well as the potential it has to diversify funding for SMEs. The ministry is therefore grateful to the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe for coming up with programs such as this one to educate SMEs on capital markets. There is great potential for collaboration with the ministry, with the SME associations, to educate SMEs on capital markets. The ministry stands ready to continue working with you to conduct awareness campaigns and outreach programs for SMEs in all provinces across the country. I look forward to presentations and discussions from this webinar. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Engineer, we are very grateful to you for this presentation, and I'm sure those of us who are here are already, the applause is going up. Is what I was going to invite, because you have, particularly for me, that slide 8, which articulates the gaps that exist in terms of funding to fuel the growth of the sector. That was really powerful and organizes the information in a way where interventions have no excuse, because the research has been done, the work has been done, the issues have been properly articulated. The chat section is filled with emails, engineer, requests for your presentation, and that is testimony of the work the ministry has done and the importance placed from the level of the executive on the sector, and the central role it occupies for Vision 2030. I also acknowledge from your presentation, engineer, that our colleagues in the financial markets, primarily RBZ, have done their best, including with the collateral registry, which has played a fundamental role in the ability of SMEs to be more visible for funding via standardization of some of the issues that present risks for would-be funders. So, engineer, thank you for setting the scene. I would like our other two presenters to come in, because you have, as it were, set the challenge, and they are going to be responding now in a very short while from the perspective of the regulator of the capital market and the perspective of the venture capital company of Zimbabwe, what solutions they are proffering for this burgeoning sector, which provides employment to the bulk of us and which also contributes the bulk of the GDP. So, Grace, I hope you are ready to share your screen and come in. I know that you and I have to manage our audio very, very carefully. So I'm going to stop speaking in a minute, invite you to come in, Grace, and take us through your presentation. Or let me see, were we going to go to venture capital first? Can you correct me, team? Team, are you there? Are we going with Grace Medejena's presentation first, and then we transition to venture capital company?
Farai, I would suggest maybe we create more time for Tino, then I can come in last.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that confirmation, team. And Natsai, please, can you share your screen so that we jump straight into the solutions, which I know Tino has been thinking about and is ready to share. And then after that, we will provide some time to Grace to then possibly round it up from the perspective of the regulator. So Tino, come online for me so that we ensure your presentation is in presentation mode. Excellent. And let me hear your audio before I mute.
Super. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Thanks, Tino. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Farai. And thank you, Engineer Gondo. I think you covered quite a lot of issues and a lot of the areas which we then can pick up from here. So yeah, my name is Tino Kambasha. I'm the CEO of the National Venture Fund, subsidiary of the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe. And I'll just be taking you through on who we are. So maybe just as a way of intro, we were basically set up as a need. So when His Excellency went and opened up a lot of these innovation hubs in the universities, we swiftly realized that the ideas were ending at idea stage, and the students were competing just to win prizes, and there was no commercialization. So our primary reason for being set up was to commercialize those ideas into scalable businesses. And I'll be taking you through that, how we are doing that and how we foresee the future. So that was the essence, that was the start of it. But then we realized there's further needs, and there's other areas such as the SME areas, and there's other innovations as well that are not necessarily linked to innovation hubs or universities, but also do speak to the nation. So our 5 pillars that we sit on are, we are looking at women, we're looking at youth, we are looking at devolution, we are looking at previously disadvantaged groups like the disabled, and we're also looking at community growth. So those are the 5 main pillars that we are on. No, you can go back up to the second slide. No, up, other way, Nancy. Okay, so whilst my team figures that out. So basically what we've done is we've recently been looking at where is the need. And I think Engineer Gondo really spoke to that and gave us the numbers. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So let's focus on the SMEs. Why is there a funding gap? So the major issue is that if you go to a bank, they'll tell you, we need collateral of X amount, we need historical financials of X amount, and so forth, which, to be honest, if anyone has got an innovation or a startup, they do not have those things. So how do we assist on that? We then come in, but we have also our requirements, which I'm going to go through. So the key requirement for attracting investors, record keeping and governance. The problem that we have in Zimbabwe is that we have a culture of people who think or feel that just because you've applied for something or there's a facility, you automatically must get it for free. We have a culture of distribution, whether it's through farming equipment or inputs that are given. So we're coming through in the financial sector to break that culture. The reason why a lot of these empowerment drives don't work is because people get given things and have no accountability and have no mechanism of repayment, no monitoring and evaluation. And because they've put nothing on the table, they really don't care. So we have a completely different model, which I'm going to go through. But I think the first thing that we all need to do is to understand that we need record keeping and governance. So even if it's on a small scale, we don't fund ideas, we fund things that are proven and that you've shown us that you've done the market research and you've done the numbers. So the following step from that is to structure capital for long-term growth. So taking money from a microfinance is not going to work to grow your business. It's short-term, it's high interest, and you'll be bleeding from day one. So that's not ideal type of capital. You want patient capital that is there with you and sticks with you for the long term. And from our end, we do not give loans. And I'd like to repeat that. We do not give loans. We do not have an interest rate. What we do is we partner businesses. So we become part of the business. We take up an equity stake and we work with you. But at the same time, we don't want to be a majority shareholder. So we might get into structures, convertible debentures, and I will get into that and how we can then assist capital markets such as the Securities Exchange Commission on developing that into deeper markets and providing funding for SMEs. And the other thing that we also need is financial disclosure and transparency. It has to be very clear and you have to be very open with your books if we're going to be your partner. So we are actually an active partner. We look at your management accounts on a month-to-month basis. We do not run your businesses. We're not in the business of running businesses. We're in the business of monitoring and evaluating and making sure that you are in the strategic area you need to be. So if you're an SME, we say, okay, fine, what are your inputs? What is your current area? What is your growth perspective? What is your distribution? And how are you managing your finances? How are you doing your procurement? And do you have all the regulatory areas covered? Yeah, next slide, Nancy. Next slide. Thanks. Right. So investor readiness is very key. And this is where a lot of SMEs get it wrong. I'd like to adjust that number because I would rather take the figures coming from Engineer Gondo to put that at 90% of the global. When we had looked at it, it was 70% of Africans employed are SMEs. So access to capital is a problem due to the issues that I mentioned: security, scalability, and also interest rate repayment. And also investor readiness, are the investee companies ready, which we found that in this market, we need to do quite a lot to actually grow that. And with our assistance, hopefully that will help. So we would come in and help tell your story in a way that an investor would look at it. Because we are of corporate finance background, most of us in our institution, we can assist in that investor readiness, but it's also up to the clients to make that information ready. Next slide, please. So what are the key requirements for attracting investors? Accurate and up-to-date financial reporting. So because most of the people we deal with are startup, there aren't a lot of historicals, but that doesn't mean that you can't work with your current and the small research you've done currently, but also your projections going forward, showing us how you're going to grow the business and what you're going to do to grow the business. And you must have a clear idea of what you're doing. Ideas just by themselves without any research and any work is not going to fly. And unfortunately, that's the problem that we've been seeing in our market. And strong corporate governance structures, we can assist with that, but having a sole proprietor or just maybe you and your spouse won't really fly. You need to structure things properly, and you need to show that the business is in a proper shape, and you've done the homework and you've got even a small board of 3 or 4 people, and you've thought about the structures and the committees that you'll be doing and looking at that, whether it's audits, and finance committees and so forth. Again, we can assist with that. The business has to be scalable. It has to be able to grow. You need to demonstrate that it is going to grow. And because we're a government institution, we are very concerned about growth in employment and growth in sectors and growth in devolution and previously disadvantaged areas. So we're not purely financially motivated. We also look at community growth and inclusion as well. So yes, we have figures and internal rates of return that we look at, but we also look at communities. So if the project is scaled and weighted, you would find that if it's a project that includes the disabled in Muzarabani or somewhere far like that, it'll score higher than a project in Harare with the same type of concept, but we look at the reach, and we also look at balancing out, and that's one of our key role as government, is to make sure that we're a fair playing field. If it was a purely venture capital or private equity fund, it will be purely motivated by finances, but because we are government, which is why we make sure that we level out the playing field, as we are very cognizant that this is taxpayers' money. So you need to have a clear growth strategy and exit potential. I'll talk a little bit on the exit potential. So this is where the capital markets come in. We want to set up certain fields. So we're going to have, whether there are green funds, or we're going to have youth, women, or carbon credit funds. So we're going to have sectors and different funds of funds, which is why we're rebranding to the National Venture Fund. So we're going to have funds of funds underneath that. And some of those funds we are going to come and list on both ZSE and VFX, just in order to include other people. So some people would also want to invest in some of these funds but don't have a lot of money. We need to include someone with, whether it's 100 ZiG or $10, to be able to invest in the funds. At the same time, that's our exit mechanism. We don't be in your business forever. We're looking at a maximum of 7 years. From 3 years, we're starting to look how we're going to exit your business. I mean, unless it's a unicorn like Econet or something, obviously we want to stick in there for the dividends. But generally, we want to be in and out of your business, help you get on your feet, pay us back our money, and we want to invest in someone else. Next slide. So key qualities of a project ready for investment, right? So it has to have innovation. We are not looking at your usual chicken project or your agro processing and whatnot. It has to have innovation. It has to be a game changer. It has to disrupt markets. So if you want to go to just a normal growth thing, we've got banks like Empower Bank, we've got Smedco, youth banks and so forth. That's what they're there for. We are for innovation and looking at something different that solves a national issue and is of national interest, has a growth potential, and is going to affect a whole lot of people and employ people and communities. It has to be scalable and sustainable. I think I've talked about that already, and the proven concept as well, that you have to have done the work and you have to have shown that this is an actual concept that works, and give us some examples of that actually working. I think I've talked a bit about the expected impact. I'm not going to go into that. And information documentation, like we also have a culture of this Msiamwa type of culture where you're doing your own thing and you're not documenting. Yes, some of your things might be cash driven, but document it. Show us that you've sold this and that. Have some sort of track record. Have your clients give you testimonies. It also helps when you come to apply for funds from us. Next slide. So I think I've talked about this, the board of directors and advisory board. We can assist with the structures of that. And we are currently doing that with our current investee companies, and I'll show you in a second. But another key thing, we are a government institution. We will be crowding in other financial sectors. We'll be crowding in pension funds, international development corporations as well. So we are working on that. But in the meantime, this is purely government funds. So either way, we need to make sure you comply with the rules of the land. So you need to be tax compliant. You need to be paying your NECs, your NASAs, your ZIMRA, and so forth. So you need to have your tax clearance certificates. And those are things that we check on because it is public funds. We have to make sure you are in line with the law. And you also have to have a clear acknowledgement. We can also help you set this up. We understand most SMEs don't have this, but issues to do with ethics, risk management and decision making, also where you're operating from. And I remember engineer had mentioned that space is an issue. So we can also assist. There are a lot of incubation hubs that we're working with. We're currently working with 825, which is an old mutual incubation hub. We're also working with ZB Innovation Hub, among others, and all of the other innovation hubs in all the universities, specifically also NAST and MSU. We've got quite a few projects happening there. So space, we understand, is an issue. We will be assisting with that. So also going back to what Engineer Gondo had mentioned, issues to do with cash flow. So when we do disperse, we do take into consideration that we need to also include finances for cash flow. And also we assist in terms of strategy and market sourcing of inputs. Yeah, next slide. So steps to structure capital for long-term growth. So you need to lay down a solid capital foundation. So sometimes you would have debt, but we come in, with the blend of the equity side of things, and we try and assist you on that. So in terms of debt, it doesn't have to be a loan. As I mentioned, you can have convertible debentures, which is another key structure that we are working with. So in some instances where we see that the business is not really valued and the money we're giving is going to be above 50% of the assets that are there, or the value of the intellectual property, what we then do is blend it up with some sort of either pref share or debenture that then we can convert at a later stage, but then it just ensures that we have a minority stake, and we like it that way. We never want to have a majority stake in any business, because we want the owners in the SMEs to also feel that they own the business and it's their business. We're just there to assist. So yeah, avoid over leveraging and getting a lot of debt, and retaining equity, for strategic growth also going forward. So once the business grows, we might want to sell some to other players who want to come in. And again, I'll just touch on transparency. I mean, investor confidence is transparency. You need to have everything documented on time and with open communication. Next slide, please. So just an example as a round off, some of the investments that we've made so far. We only launched this year on the 16th of January, but I think we've made some big strides. We've invested in Kumba Care, which is a telehealthcare service. And basically how this started, it was supposed to be just getting teleconsultants from home, but we've then upgraded, and we're in the, I see we've got 5 minutes left. Okay, let me quickly do that, and then we might have to restart. Basically, we're moving on to having an Uber service, or an in-drive service of telehealthcare. People can get consultation whilst in Gwanda, so Gogo doesn't have to get onto a bus, come to Parenyatwa. We basically want to set up a virtual Parenyatwa, and medicine will be delivered to you using an in-drive type structure. So everything can happen, prescriptions, everything happens without leaving your home care. Pure Red is an agro-processing company from Nast University. They dehydrate tomatoes, giving them a shelf life of 18 months. Add water, you have tomato puree. So that's good, increasing shelf life and price stability for tomatoes. Mobility Africa, I'm sure you've seen the Humbers, the Ndomboshawa, Wedza, Watsomba, and Chipinge, the orange ones. And those electric scooters, we have a central charging point where you swap batteries, lady-driven only, and you go there, you swap batteries, and they go and they deliver stuff. It's helped communities. Some of those women in the rural areas now have children in private schools. These are just some of the major flagships. You'll see more projects coming through. Next slide. Yeah, I think in conclusion, yeah, everything just is about being ready, and everything has to be straightforward. Yeah, so I see Farai, you wrote something in there. Sorry, I was just busy presenting. Maybe you want to come back online?
Thank you so much, Tino. And I'm sorry to make you gallop without stopping you to say we don't need to restart. We simply continue.
Sure.
So if there is a comment or two that you wanted to add, please just hold on to them and then come back in again after Grace has made her presentation.
Sure.
Tino, I'm feeling a little bit like just when the barriers, or just when the background had been set and the gaps articulated, and I had a feeling of the barriers coming down and the funding side and the SME side coming closer together, I feel a little bit as if the barriers are re-erected, but I do understand that this is not the time for freebies. We do want accountability to be high, and you are emphasizing that we want clean books and clear vision. I hear that, and people are applauding your presentation. So there is some coming together, but I think it's very clear that there's a lot of work to be done by our SMEs. And here I assume, Tino, please answer me a little bit later, that it sounds as if you have a blend of the small and the medium in your engagements, whereas I may have been persuaded to think that it is the medium enterprises that may be the focus. But please reflect a little bit on that when you come back with one or two comments that you may have rushed through. For now, I'd like to invite Grace to come in and give us the perspective from the regulator, how capital market regulatory role is playing out, how we are facilitating these conversations. And in fact, this webinar is the means of kickstarting action in a very deliberate way. And in fact, it comes before an event that is billed for August, where that ecosystem will be coming together to have more firm discussions with the critical players. So Grace, I know you are waiting. Please jump in. And then I think the technical team will take another 20 to 30 minutes so that we're able to cover both presentation and questions, if there should be any, within the same webinar. Thanks, Grace. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Farai. Is my screen clear? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can. And if you can enter presentation mode, please. I must be offline to avoid the echo.
Okay, how is it now?
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you once again, Farai, and good morning to our participants. And thank you once again as well to Mr. Kambasha and Engineer Gondo, because what you have done, you've actually made my life easier in the sense that with Engineer Gondo, we have already looked at the demand side of what we are discussing this morning. And with Tino's presentation, we have already looked at the supply side of the market that we are dealing with. And from a commission's point of view, what we normally expect is to make that, to have that diagnostic, where we are saying we have a consumer diagnostic as well as a supplier side diagnostic, in order for us to understand what is happening in both sides of the market. That way, I think by carrying out that needs assessment for the from a demand side, we'll be trying to understand the needs of the market so that as the supply side comes in, it's actually addressing the needs of that market. So this is what we are trying to do through the discussion this morning, is to understand the needs of the SME industry. And through our capital market intermediaries, they can then come in with solutions that we are hoping will then be addressing the needs of the SMEs. So in terms of my presentation, I'm not going to take much of our time, given that I think for certain slides that we're covering the SME industry, Engineer Gondo has already done justice, I think, in that regard. And then in terms of the supply side, again, Mr. Kambasha has also touched on that aspect. What I'm going to dwell on is just to demonstrate that what we are discussing today, we are actually not reinventing the wheel. It has actually been done elsewhere, and indications are that it's been successful. So I think it's something that we can also do in our market. So in terms of background, maybe for the benefit of the SME industry, because I believe that the purpose of this engagement is for us to engage so that as part of our discussion, we also raise awareness in terms of how the capital market operates. But I think in terms of our capital market intermediaries that are on the call, I think I should be preaching to the converted. But I think for the benefit of the SME industry, the Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, is the apex regulator of the capital market. And this is in terms of the Securities and Exchange Act, Chapter 2425. But obviously, there is also supporting subsidiary legislation in the form of the Collective Investment Schemes, Chapter 2419, Asset Management Act, Chapter 2426. And what I would also want to highlight is the General Notice 469 of 2020, which came in as a declaration of new asset classes that have been introduced on the capital market. And this is where we'll be talking of private equity, venture capital, as well as real estate investment trust, products that I think will be very valuable to the SME industry. So as an apex regulator for the capital market, our mandate, part of our mandate is to develop the market, and therefore we have to broaden and deepen the market through new products and services. And what we are discussing this morning are some of the products that we can actually see coming on board in terms of capital market products. The Commission is regulating over 200 securities market intermediaries, I think as of 31 March 2025. And this includes our exchanges, our advisors, and investment managers. And the objective is partly to promote education and awareness for inclusivity, which is exactly what we are doing this morning. What I would want to highlight as well is the purpose of the capital market is to facilitate capital raising. And I think from Engineer Gondo, we actually heard that this is one of the key challenges that the market is faced with. So this morning we are saying, how is the capital market going to address this challenge? I think in terms of the role of the sector, I'm not going to say much on this, but I think Engineer Gondo has demonstrated to us that SMEs have generally been considered to be engines of growth worldwide, given their labor intensive, given that they are labor intensive in nature, also their capital saving capacity. They also can harness local resources, and they are very flexible. And they've also strong linkages with the rest of the economy, which is why this sector is important. And what I would also want to highlight is that Zimbabwe is also demonstrating the same, in the sense that we can actually see that there is increasing activity in the SME industry. And that activity is playing a vital role in economic activity through significant contribution to GDP, as demonstrated by Engineer Gondo. They are also employing quite a number of our people, and I think we also have different services and products in that industry. So, like I indicated in my introduction, that given all this activity which is taking place in the SME industry, we then say, as the Securities and Exchange Commission, there is therefore need for us to understand what is happening in the SME industry. Because I think people from finance often say that there is, I think it makes sense for us to follow the money. So if there is a lot of activity that is happening in the SME industry, why not understand what is happening there? Because what it means is that maybe this is where most of the money is. So if we want to follow the money, let's understand what is happening in the industry, and also we try and address their needs or any challenges that they could be facing. And from a commission's point of view, what we may then need to do, as usual, is to create an enabling environment so that any new products and services that can come on board in address to the challenges of the SME industry can now come in, given an enabling environment where the participants can operate in. So in terms of what is happening in other jurisdictions, like I indicated, what we are doing or what we are talking about this morning, we are actually not reinventing the wheel. But as you will notice on the screen there, South Africa actually has 91% of the formal business entity. 91% of the formal business is coming from the SMEs. And the SME industry is also contributing 51 to 57% to its GDP. And is also employing about 60% of the South Africans. If you look at China, the SME industry accounts for 40% of GDP, and 60% of industrial output is coming from the same industry, and is also employing about 75% of its people. When you're looking at the US economy, the SMEs provide jobs for about half of the nation. In terms of India, 33% of its exports are coming from the SME industry. And then in New Zealand, 39% of total value added output as of 2004 came from the SME industry. And then looking at Pakistan, 90% of all enterprises in Pakistan are coming from the SME industry, and they are employing 80% of the people, and 40% of GDP is coming from this industry. So what this is demonstrating is that if we can address the challenges of our SME industry, I think we can also be doing the same as is happening in other jurisdictions. So this is the reason why we are gathered here this morning, so that at least we can get to understand the needs of the SME industry and see what it is that we can do. Our belief as the Commission is to say that our SMEs are the giants of our future industry. Hence, there is reason for us to address the challenges that they are facing, so that at least we can support the growth of their businesses. We have heard from Engineer Gondo that one of the biggest challenge for the industry is lack of funding. and which is exactly one of the challenges that the capital market can actually address. The only concern that we have as a commission is that if you look at the capital market at the moment, we already have existing infrastructure that the SME industry can actually take advantage of. So our challenge now is that maybe when you look at the participants on the market, we don't really have the level of SME participation that we would want. But given the existing infrastructure that we have, our call this morning as a commission is to say, let's ensure that our SMEs can actually participate on the market and also be able to benefit from part of the solutions that we have on the market. We also have a blend of old and new market intermediaries that can actually handhold SMEs to maneuver through the capital market landscape, as Mr. Kambasha has demonstrated. We also have tech-driven solutions in the likes of our GEM portal, which can automatically categorize our SMEs into different groups depending on their level of maturity. And all these solutions are aimed at assisting the SMEs so that at least they can grow their businesses. So looking at the capital market financing opportunities that are on board, I think in addition to what Mr. Kambasha has highlighted, from one of the researches that have been carried out in the region, it has been realized that 10 SADC member states already have SME markets or segments which their respective SME industries can actually take advantage of. These segments have less stringent requirements, coming in as light touch regulatory oversight in order to incubate SMEs so that at the end of it all, they also then can gravitate towards the main platform in terms of listing. When you're looking at other jurisdictions, for example, Botswana, Namibia, Seychelles, and Tanzania, they have venture capital market boards that are mainly focused on companies in the formative phases of growth, including startups, for purposes of affording them the opportunity to raise capital in order to grow their businesses. Looking at all these SADC countries, you will notice that it's maybe Mauritius and South Africa across the SADC region that have registered significant growth in SME participation in the capital market, with at least 40 and 130 listed SMEs on their respective platforms. So in terms of alternative financing mechanisms, you find that there is a lot which is happening in other jurisdictions. We can have factoring or invoice discounting taking place on the capital market, which can actually benefit our small businesses, where their short-term borrowing can actually be securitized against unpaid customer invoices, therefore improving their cash flows. We can also securitize any outstanding debt so that our SMEs can proceed doing their businesses whilst their outstanding commitments have been taken care of. A good example on this one is South Africa. And as well, in South Africa, I find that there are also private placement boards that our SMEs can also take part in case they don't want to go straight for listing. Of late now, there is talk of crowdfunding initiatives, which is actually gaining ground. And I think our SMEs can also raise capital through this crowdfunding approach, and good examples are actually coming from Mauritius and South Africa. So I can mention a whole list, as you can see from the screen that I've shared there, that there is a lot that is happening. And even if you look at issues to do with real estate structured products, we can structure small-scale real estate products that will be specifically earmarked for the SME sector in order to address the housing challenge that the industry is faced with. The Ghana Stock Exchange of late also came up with a pooled investment fund, which is aimed at raising capital publicly, and this capital is being deployed to vetted SMEs. So what this list is saying is that all these issues can actually be applied on our market for the benefit of our SMEs. So in conclusion, what am I saying? We have all seen that there is limited access to finance by our SMEs, as demonstrated by Engineer Gondo. And I think globally it has also been found that $1.5 trillion globally in terms of financing gap has been identified within the SME industry, of which 1/3 of it is from the high income states and 2/3 of that is from the emerging and developing countries. But what from the existing infrastructure that we have on our market, you can tell that there is actually a potential for the capital market to make a difference for the SME industry in terms of access to finance. However, given the lack of participation on the market, it probably means that maybe there is limited awareness in terms of how the capital market operates. Hence, the reason why we are gathered here this morning, so that at least we engage and get to understand the challenges that the SME industry is faced with, and we can also make it clear to the SME industry in terms of the potential solutions that they can partake in. That way, I think it will be more of capacitating the SME industry so that at least they can be able to take part on the capital market in future. Through our education and awareness efforts as a commission and as an industry, we should be able to bridge the gap in terms of the limited awareness that is there when you are looking at the SME industry. So going forward as a commission, what we probably may be calling upon is more of these initiatives where we get to engage more with the SME industry so that at least we can collaborate and come up with solutions that can assist the industry going forward. So I think without wasting much time, Farai, given that our solutions we've heard from Mr. Kambasha, and I think the landscape in terms of the SME industry has been covered by Engineer Gondo, let me hand over back the mic to you so that maybe we can look at further issues that we need to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for taking us through your presentation. Still very diligent, notwithstanding the pressure that you were under. But I think you are quite right that the first two presenters covered a lot of ground and assisted us based on the feedback that we are seeing on the chat and the very, very lively discussion and debate that is happening, that this issue is topical, it is pertinent and somewhat overdue. I hope you'll allow me to say just a couple of things, and also, Engineer, if you can be on standby just to come back in, because it's been a while since you spoke, and I'm sure that the presentations that happened after your presentation and the questions that have come up in the chat require you to come back and make one or two closing statements. Tino, you will recall I had asked a question, but I suspect in Grace's presentation that issue may have been addressed, but I would also ask you to come back in and make a concluding remark. I will say perhaps two things. One is that the expectation at the Commission here is that this is not a talk shop, and I know that Engineer Gondo, having set the scene, has emphasized upon us that the ministry is racing ahead, they have a tight program, and they are very results-oriented, and the capital market stands ready to proffer solutions for this industry, which is contributing emphatically to GDP. And we have seen that the employment numbers, the jobs created in most jurisdictions are over 50% of the various markets that have been researched. That's the first thing. The second thing is to say, and maybe Engineer Gondo will help us reflect on it, to say, if only 5.25% of loans have been extended to SMEs in this jurisdiction, and yet they are contributing so significantly to our GDP, where is that funding coming from? And really, is our risk aversion for that sector justified? If they are able to find resources and manage these resources and exercise such stewardship of these resources, what does that mean to the way we have viewed them traditionally as a sector that is fraught with risk? So, Engineer Gondo, can I invite you to come back in and make share a few reflections on the conversations that we have had?
Thank you, Farai. Allow me to appreciate the presentation from Mr. Kambasha. It was really, very, very poignant. and also the presentation by the colleague from the Securities Exchange. I think, Farai, for us, where we are seated as a ministry, we are very elated, actually, to say that you as the regulator, you are coming up with such a platform as this, because we believe that it is a solution. Capital markets are a solution to the challenges that are facing SMEs in terms of access to funding. You asked to say, where is the funding coming from? Farah, I'll give you a very, very fresh example of how the sector is funding itself. Recently, I'm sure we are all aware that there is a fire that ravaged part of the Glenview Furniture Complex, which, for your own information, is supplying quite a lot of the furniture that is being used in this country. But over maybe 3,000 operators are there who are manufacturing, and we have other service providers who are providing inputs. None of them is accessing funding through any form of funding, platforms that we have right now. And we went there on Monday to assess with the Honorable Minister how the damage is, what is the extent, so that as government and with other partners, how we can support. But when we went there, we already saw some of the operators already restocking and constructing their structures. And we were just out of interest asking to say, how have you been able to to fund what you're already doing? And one thing that came out is that we've borrowed from family, because the family understand this is our source of livelihood. So if they don't support us, it means we'll be coming to them for food. So they would rather support us to continue to be in business, so that we then don't bother them by coming to them to look for food. So, Farai, a number of our small businesses are getting their funding from family support. Parents are supporting their kids, relatives are supporting their other relatives, just to make sure that their businesses can continue operating. And then the sector, because of the landscape in our financial sector at the moment, the sector has not really been also doing formal savings, but they've been saving, and some of them are also turning to their savings in times of trouble, or when they want to grow their businesses. They are using own resources to grow their businesses. But we all know that these sources of funding, if there are limitations, and they can only take you so far. If you really want to grow, you really need to make sure that SMEs are onboarded on our formal financial systems, so that they can have access to some of this funding, like I said, which is long term, which is big enough to cater for their needs. So I, once again, really appreciate this platform, because we believe that it is the right way, and the recognition that this Securities Exchange is making to say SMEs can really be very active and be part of the formal, financial markets. And then on the platform, I've seen a lot of colleagues who want to reach out to the ministry. We are here, we are available. Our ministry is ready to engage with you. Our head office is at Kagui building, which is corner Simon Muzenda and Central Avenue, Kagui building, 8th floor. I'll post my number on the chat, so you can also take my number and reach out if you have any other engagements that you would want to have with the ministry. Otherwise, Farai, we are ready to go out there and educate more of our SMEs, so that they are really active and participate in our formal financial markets. I thank you.
Engineer, thank you so much. And you've made it so immediate and real by the reference to the Glenview cluster. There was a question there about insurance, but I think it may take us in a different direction. And let me indicate that it is our expectation that this SME engagement becomes a series of engagements rather than a once-off. We certainly have a part 2 planned, where already some of the capital market players have solutions that are already up and running, and we rely on gatherings such as this to reflect on what is on offer and how it can be perfected to respond to the needs of the sector. Before I come to you, Tino, to round up, there was a hand up from Last Matema. Last, was your question answered? Is that why you lowered your hand, or do you still have a question, Last? Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you now.
Yeah, thank you for coming up with a platform like this. I think the presenters have touched a lot and they've opened up on the gaps which I think such platforms are trying to address. Most importantly, I think as players within the financial ecosystem, like what the presenter from SECZim said, let's explore other alternative financing models. They are tried and tested models. If you go to Kenya, if you go to even from in Europe, of credit unions and the cooperatives, I think those are good. They relate well and they are embedded in SMEs, and they are platforms which SMEs participate in with the full confidence, since it is their platforms, they are made, which are made up of their own rules. So as we explore alternatives in terms of financing models, a cooperative ecosystem is one such an alternative which can quicken and close the gaps which we are seeing. Thank you.
It's a great submission. Thank you very much, Last. And we hope that we will benefit from your participation as we go forward in the various fora. Big Boy Murenga, please come through with your question. Boy, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. Well, mine is just to add to what Engineer Gondo has said about answering on the issue of financing the SME sector, especially where is this money coming from that is funding the SME sector, which is unofficial. The truth of the matter is that, yes, exactly what Mr. Gondo has said, but to add on to that, cities, you will see how many microfinance companies are mushrooming every day. Every day there are microfinances coming up in every city. It means there's indication that there's something going on. These are the guys that are financing the SME sector. Why are they able to finance the SME sector? They are able because they are not using the bank template in their loan application. They are using, they've tailor-made products so that people that security access their result, selling up to those guys, getting what they can get. But the truth, getting money from microfinance will never grow your business. It will never. But it will make it. If you look what we are doing, all the money that is given to SMEs in this country, the government is doing a lot. Trying, but the only problem we have is the bank template that is being used even in Medco, even in Power Bank. It's not reaching out to all the SMEs, to SMEs. So I think when it comes bigger than we need to support the sector with everything and try to come up with a tailor-made that reach out to all.
Murenga, thank you very much. Your
To grow their
contribution is
business.
great.
Thank you so
But
much.
we've gotten the gist of it, and I thank you for that very impassioned plea, where, to quote you, you say we need to give the SME sector everything that there is available. And I think the people on this in this webinar totally concur with that view, and this is why we've had such a lively discussion. As I said before, Tino, please be ready to come in. There will be an engagement in the coming weeks with the key players to take submissions from this discussion here, the existing data, and then looking specifically at capital market infrastructure to see what particular solutions can be brought to respond to the demand side issues that have been highlighted here. Tino, a final comment from you before we close, please.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Quite interesting, some of the contributions that have come through from everyone else in the gallery. So it is pleasing to note as well that we are of the same vision. So we are looking at other solutions as well, types of Mikando type of situations where we crowdfund doing stuff like EcoCash, micro investments that match that. I'm of the feeling that microfinance firms are too expensive, and it's actually causing things to go up. So we're also looking at solutions for that in the medium to short term. So I think at the end of the day, you are absolutely right. I think it was Big Boy who ended up on that we need to have our own homegrown solutions. We're also looking at situations like tokenizing title deeds. So you only give a section of your title deed or your farm as securities rather than the full amount for a chicken project. So we're looking at various solutions, and you are right. And this is the time that we need to come up with ideas as a country, look at our own solutions, not what's happening in the world, and find solutions for ourselves. So thank you, SECZim, for this, and my fellow speakers and everyone who participated. We look forward to a follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tino, for those concluding remarks. I don't think there's anything that needs to be added, and I thank you, all those who've joined us and provided such a great platform to interact very candidly and openly about a huge opportunity which exists for our country for sustainable development, but also looking closely at the impediments and hopefully in the not too distant future, building on the solutions that are already there in the market and building on the tremendous progress and strides that the SME players have taken on their own in some cases, often without traditional security and support. And through engineers, Gondo's ministry, we would like to ensure that we provide structured, relevant and appropriate support for these very dynamic and resilient actors. So let me thank you all for being with us for an extended webinar, and we look forward to you being with us in the series that will follow from here. And please use the various presentations, emails, addresses provided for further engagement. Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you soon on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.